Hi everyone, Comic Book Reviewer here. This time reviewing on Justice League's Gods and Monsters Superman. Now, as you know, Justice League's Gods and Monsters had tie-in comic book series based from the 2015 Justice League Gods and Monsters film, which had Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and the Justice League, one of which I am reviewing is Superman, which is meant to tell the origin of, the Gods and Monsters version of Superman, who is the son of General Zod and Lara in this continuity. And the story starts off how, Gods and Monsters Superman's pod ends up escaping Krypton, the planet explodes. But we see how before he was Superman, he was a young boy known as Herman, and of course wakes up to, where his family now live, in a sort of migrant camp. Of course, looks up into space, is fascinated by the beauty, and flies off. And this is before he embraces his darker side. And this is like what any kid would be, fascinated with his powers, but still having to see the harsher reality of life. And we see how his mum says, "Was it like, Herman, to fly with the angels?" "I'm sorry, Madre. I know I promised not to, but..." "Are you sorry?" "I don't think so." And of course, she obviously knows Herman still needs some guidance. We see how they are working in the fields to make the extra money. And of course, they see, crop dusters showing up and showing that the people in charge don't care what happens to the other workers trying to make extra money. And Herman using his super breath to save everyone. And of course, his father is basically furious. Again, he obviously knows Herman meant well, but of course tries to get involved when he shouldn't be. And you do see how Herman tries to be defensive about this, thinking he's done nothing wrong. Just as he's about to hit him, he obviously knows he's not going to, and knows Herman's obviously still a little kid. He obviously still needs a little bit of guidance. But we kind of see how the next day they get ready to do their next hours of work, but they obviously see that, everything in the field was harvested in one night. And we do kind of see how Herman and his older sister Vel go off around the fields in a forest-like area. And of course, we kind of see how his sister wants to have this big American dream. And of course, you see how Herman thinks that she sounds a lot like their father. But we kind of see how Herman plays a little game with her, showing that if he can really prove herself, come up and be where I am, up on the tree. And this is where Vel is determined to prove herself. And this is where Herman, like any person would do, thinking that they did nothing wrong, gets a little carried away, and Vel ends up falling and badly injures herself. And this is where Herman realized he did something he could never take back. And this is him feeling fully responsible. And of course, both of them never told their parents what happened in case Herman got the proper blame, and is now confined to a wheelchair, now being disabled. And this is where Herman blames himself and tries to shut himself away, and obviously doesn't want to kind of make similar problems. And you even see that, when the bully's saying, you got no guts, you know that? No guts at all. But I obviously like how Vel obviously knows that she doesn't completely blame him, and obviously knows Herman was just a harmless kid who didn't know any better. And this really just shows you how much of a mature person Vel is. But we see how the next day they're kind of getting to the next location. We kind of see how Madre tries to kind of get Herman to listen, and we see how Herman's adopted father obviously sees a plane coming down, but obviously the much older Herman makes it clear that you didn't want me to use my powers, and that's the last thing I ever want to do. And this is Herman reminding them, you wanted this, I'm not doing it. And this is where, they start to see that Herman's getting unintentionally worse. And they stop at a small, traditional, town, and we kind of see some, arrogant, racist bullies go against Herman. And this is where Herman's patience has been limited, and obviously uses his X-ray vision to burn one of the sort of bullies. We see how he realises what he's done, runs back to his mum, and obviously mocks her about her faith and religion, and this is where even his mum has her limits with him. And obviously Herman realising that he's getting worse and worse, until the town sheriff and a bunch of the sort of parents and that show up, and we kind of see how Herman's adopted father tries to calm the situation. But we kind of see how Herman decides to go face to face, despite Vel trying to get him to see reason. But this is also where Herman now realizing this is more like a personal matter of war, and goes full on Kryptonian on them, and obviously duking it out with them. And this is where Vel tries to get him to see reason. If he crosses this line, then he's not part of the family. He'll no longer be human. And this is where Herman now realizes he can't stay here any longer. And after everything that's gotten worse, Herman decides to leave to try and find himself. And does a lot of traveling, trying to find out who he's meant to be, what the kind of person he wants to be. And after a few drinks and that in Mexico, and after seeing something that happens near a school, turns out a really powerful businessman known as John Fortes has kidnapped the children of reporters and politicians. And this makes Herman realize he can't let this happen, and obviously goes on full-on Rambo mode, and takes on all the soldiers single-handedly, and even the special forces as well, and eventually gets answers to where the children are, and obviously finds out they were praying for their saviour thanks to Mother Mary. And this is where Herman realises he needs to go back home. We see how Herman meets with his father, and after finding out that his mother died a few weeks ago, this is where both him and his dad do make peace. We also see that Herman now realises his sister's now married, has a baby, and is going to be going to school to get more grades. And obviously, Vel also is proud that Herman made the right decisions. She obviously knows it's going to be a dark world out there, and someone needs to understand the darkness to bring in the light. And we see how John Kovis is obviously with one of his girls until he comes face to face with Gods and Monsters Superman, and obviously takes him out properly, ending the story. So I think this one is enjoyable, but it's definitely okay. It kind of makes sense why Herman definitely has elements of Lara's DNA in him. A bit more morals, a bit more compassionate, and when he does see things from other people's perspective, like, Kurt being hungry when he first met him, seeing what happened to Cyborg and his son, it made sense that Herman had to go through hell and back just to gain his wisdom and understanding for others. And it really just shows you how much Herman can change and be a better person despite everything that happened to him. So it definitely deserves a thumbs in the middle. It's a good issue, just there to be a comic tie-in. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.